all we need to really do is believe something, and you can literally believe things into being.
Yeah.
And he thought I was nuts and still does. But we both believed our way out of poverty for sure into upper income, really good lifestyles.
Hey everyone, welcome to another great podcast. I'm Melanie Johnson, your host today for the Elite Expert Insider, brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, where we make our authors international bestsellers and award winners, help them write and publish their book and market their book. All right, so that being in mind, maybe you have manifested being a number one best-selling author. So today we are going to talk about manifestation, but in a totally different way. I've heard of having the vibration, but I've never heard of having a low vibration before. And what does that mean? And a whole different level of consciousness creation. So if you're wanting your future to be bright and you're thinking about things you've wanted and have not come your way, guess what? Today is your day. We're going to make that happen. We have David Strickel with us today, and he has written the book on that and writing another book that all is talking about all of that. David, welcome. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's good to be here.
So, how did you get started in this whole topic of manifestation and consciousness?
This is something that I understood as a teenager. My first recollection of understanding what I refer to as conscious creation. A lot of people call it the law of attraction, but I think that's got some things about it that are a little misleading sometimes. So
Yeah.
I like to just boil it down to conscious creation. And my first recollection of understanding it was in 1982 when I was 14 years old, growing up poor, telling my older brother Doug in great detail how all we need to really do is believe something, and you can literally believe things into being.
Yeah.
And he thought I was nuts and still does. But we both believed our way out of poverty for sure into upper income, really good lifestyles. So we
Yeah.
did it our own way. But I understood that very early. And then there were a few books about it before The Secret came out. Then, of course, the book The Secret exploded, and Oprah made it a
Mhm.
big thing. And everybody started talking about the law of attraction and manifestation. And it is something that is true. It works, but it's largely misunderstood. It's very often misrepresented as something that's very easy to do. And it's not so easy. It's a lifetime's work to get better and better at it. But anybody that has ever accomplished anything knows that mindset and having that, this will work, I will figure this out, having that driven mindset absolutely makes all the difference. So all of these things are tied together. They're really all the same thing. It's just how you go about applying it.
Yeah. And I've read some things, like some people think it's real woo woo stuff. Oh, that's just a bunch of woo woo and all those things. And then Jim Carrey writing himself, I think it was a $10 million check or something that he learned at a young age about manifestation. But I'm wondering, is there a difference? Like I hear the words are important. It's not necessarily I will have, it's that being in the space that I already have. Would you say that's
And you're right
true?
about the woo woo. I always joke that I'm the least woo woo person that you'll meet, but I am very tapped into a level of consciousness that I think we all have access to. And I've
Hmm.
spent my whole life tapping into that. And I don't get spirit guides and angels and deities and worship and rules. I don't get any of that from that. What I do get is that, and I see plenty of evidence of this, that we can literally speak things into being. We can literally believe things into being. Our lives, if we really look around objectively at what our lives are like, our lives are a reflection of our core beliefs. That doesn't mean our lives are everything that we want them to be or exactly what we want, or that we don't have unwanted elements. But those
Yeah.
unwanted elements always have some sort of reason behind them that's driving that. And
Yeah.
a lot of the conscious creation or law of attraction community demonizes that. They demonize low vibration. You said you really haven't heard the term low vibration. If you're in the woo-woo circles, you
Yeah.
hear about high vibration, low vibration all the
What's the
time.
difference? Break that down. What's the
Well,
difference
if
between low
you
and
just think
high
about
vibration?
vibration is this energy. And I live in California, and in California, you will hear all the time, and you probably hear this everywhere, that you don't like someone's vibe or you don't like the
Yeah.
vibe of the place. If you
Mhm.
interact with somebody and they just turn you off, you don't like their vibe. But what is that? It's their vibration, it's their energy. You're not
Yeah.
liking what they're putting out. It just doesn't really gel with who you are and what you want to
Yeah.
interact with. So everybody gets that. So I'm all about let's get into the energy of all this, because the energy to me matters more than the words. And you get into all these different woo-woo communities. You've opened the Pandora's box of woo-woo, so I'll get into that. And you do
Yeah.
get into all of these rules and all of these, you're allowed to say this and you can't say that, and you need to be doing it this way and not that way. I think at the end of the day, the energy that you're putting behind something is really what matters. If you believe you could become a mainstream publisher and you allow that belief to drive you through all of the challenges that you're going to face to become that, you will be
Hmm.
that. If you believe that you're going to be a best-selling author and you're willing to drive through all the challenges to get there,
Hmm.
you're going to be that. And what a lot of religions and spiritual practices don't acknowledge, and a lot of people these days especially seem to be thinking, is that our challenges shouldn't exist, that we just shouldn't have challenges. You see this, especially in the TikTok generation. If you look at TikTok at all, there's so much thought about this thing shouldn't exist, that person shouldn't be that way, cancel culture off the charts. All of these things that we're labeling shouldn't exist. Life just needs to be easy. And then a lot of the woo-woo community gets into this whole idea of utopia, that we're somehow going to have this new earth where everybody just agrees about everything and gets along all the time. That's a lovely thought, but then what would we do once we were there?
No,
Life would be boring without its challenges, right?
for sure. Tell us how to tap into this consciousness, because a lot of us are like, okay, I'm wonderful. Like, how do you really tap into that energy and get into that space? Are there certain things we should do that take us there?
I think the most important thing to acknowledge here is that anything that you want to change is going to be challenged. Any
Hmm.
belief system that you have that you've spent a lifetime creating, you are not just going to read a book or go to a workshop or do a plant medicine ceremony or any of those things and have that really change. A lot of
So
people
that's not
do.
a flipping a switch at all. You can't just flip
Right,
the
like
switch.
instant, effortless manifestation. That will sell out a workshop in a heartbeat, but it's not
Yeah.
true, unfortunately, and everybody eventually realizes it's not true, and then they give up on it. The problem is that there's probably truth being offered in the workshop itself,
Yeah.
but you leave the workshop, you feel like you're changed forever, you go apply this for a few days, and then life starts to hit you, and then suddenly it all just falls away, and it's like you never read the book or did the thing in the first place. Tenacity is probably the most important thing, because if you are money's a great topic because everyone wants to manifest more money. If
Right.
you want to believe that you have more money and you want that to be, you are not going to just convince yourself all the time that you have more money and have that work, because your bills are going to come due, your paycheck's going to show up, it may be less than you think it's going to be. If you have a constant energy of not enough money and you've always had it, it's going to take some work to move yourself out of there. And the problem with so many of these practices is they present it as something that, oh, it's so simple. Just dream of something and it just shows up. The book The Secret, a lot of people read the book The Secret, so I reference that a lot. There's nothing untrue told in The Secret, but it is framed in such a way that does simplify it. There's a movie that was made about that book, and this is going back 20 years, where the kid is sitting and dreaming of a bicycle, and the bicycle just materializes on the lawn. And I like to joke, I've been dreaming about a Bentley ever since then, and the Bentley has yet to show up in my driveway. It just doesn't work like that. There are things that you can manifest instantaneously, but the high stakes things, the things that we really put a lot of pressure on, relationships, health, money, we have very firm lifelong beliefs about those things, and they change
Yeah.
slowly over time, and people don't have the patience to allow them to change slowly over time. But if you work a system that allows you to change them slowly over time, then you'll
Hmm.
start to see the rewards of that. And I always say, make your system something that you enjoy doing, because there's
Mm.
no end to it, there's no destination, there's no finish line that you're going to
Yeah.
cross, and you're just going to manifest everything. But what you do see with practices, life gets better and better. Your health gets better. Solutions show up easier. Money comes a little easier. Bills get handled a little better. And you just allow the appreciation of that process to build momentum. And suddenly it's a way of life.
And I think you touched on a thing like it's really when life gets in the way, right? Life has tragedies or challenges, and then you're thinking, this isn't working. But I think I love what you're saying about having that system. It really is, to me, my own system is okay, it's having the daily practice of listening to certain things, having the certain things I'm going to say to myself every day and repeat it. And there's days that I feel like, I'm not doing this anymore. It's not really working. You know what I mean? You want to
Mhm.
give up on it. And then something magical happens and you're like, oh, okay. Maybe that was
That
from,
was working.
yeah,
That's
let me
that's
get back to
very
that. Maybe it
typical of
was from my
anybody on
prayer.
that type of path, yeah.
Yeah. And what is you say, how do you develop your system? What are some of the things that people should try and say, yes, that works for me. No, that doesn't. Like maybe reading The Secret or parts of The Secret every day. Maybe it's prayer or reading the Bible or learning how to tap into your consciousness. What have you seen some of the routines or systems that have worked for your clients or that you've suggested to them?
Definitely, I like to take everything that is not positive thinking, or I like to call
Mhm.
appreciation of all things. Omni-appreciation is the forthcoming book that we'll talk about later. But the anything that is not that, anything
Mhm.
that is not, I love my life, I'm well resourced, I'm healthy, I'm happy, I'm appreciating exactly where I am, even if it's not where I want to end up or even where I really want to be.
Mhm.
Anything other than that, I call the matrix. All of this limitation, you're not good enough, you're too fat, you're too old, you're too whatever, all of those ideas that are planted in our mind by other human beings that can motivate us, but ultimately, if we are doing anything other than appreciating exactly where we are, having something that counteracts that. And you're right, whatever it is for you, there's no right or wrong. We're not about rules. We're not about anything being any religion being right or wrong or anything else. It really is what feeds your soul, what feeds you
Mhm.
feeling good about exactly where you are, which then
Yeah.
opens up the pathway to being more. A lot of
Yeah.
people think, gosh, I have to get really uncomfortable with myself before I take action. And if you know yourself well enough and that's true, that's okay. But I have found that beating yourself up about something tends to keep you stuck in whatever you're beating yourself up about
Mhm.
until you stop. And I've worked with enough people now, hundreds of people all over the world now for a decade. I don't do it anymore that way, but I spent a decade coaching. And when I was coaching, I noticed how when people finally appreciated what was, the energy loosened up and then new things started to flow. When you're stuck in that space of, I don't like where I am, I shouldn't be this way, I shouldn't be broke, I shouldn't be alone, whatever it is, then you're just going to stick yourself there because that's where your focus is.
Yeah. And I've noticed when I tell myself certain things, like my physical body feels a different way, right? So to find that system, even what works for you, you can almost feel like your gut shifts or your physiology kind of changes when you're listening to a certain thing or reading a certain thing. And that's how I know that is working for me. When
Mhm.
I, hit that, it's, oh, I feel lighter. That makes me feel happy. And I've even noticed like some movies, if I watch, I go, this movie's making me very stressed out. I get enough stress during the day. I don't want to do that. And I want to talk to you about the Matrix because I've heard you talk about the Matrix. What does that mean? Define the Matrix for people
Yeah, it
when
has
they're
nothing to
in
do
the
with a
Matrix.
movie or science fiction. I call the
Right,
Matrix
exactly.
the collective human belief system. We all have some version. Anywhere you go in the world, there's some sort of a collective belief system going on.
Mm-hmm.
There's one for all of humanity. Then, of course, there's many versions of that, drill all the way down to any community. And you're going to have some sort of a collective belief system that in our society, gender is a big topic, which I'm not trying to open that can right now, but gender is a big topic. So this is what a man is, and this is what a woman is, and this is our belief system. And then you have
Mm-hmm.
people that come along that want to challenge that belief system. And then you have a lot of pushback on that. You have this
Yeah.
conjecture. So that's our belief system that we have defined what these things are. And we've
Yeah.
agreed as a society that, okay, and that's not bad that we necessarily do that. It's just we've agreed on this. We've
Yeah.
agreed that a child is a child until they're 18 and then they're suddenly an adult, supposedly, that sort of thing. So we have all
Yeah.
these agreed upon things, but we have to acknowledge they're still human created things.
Right.
And that's the matrix. So it really is everything that isn't that appreciation of all things, that, by the way, is what settles your nervous system. So when you're feeling good, it is that energy. I call that source. Some people call that God. You may call that just your
Yeah.
own consciousness reaction to something. Again,
Mm-hmm.
I don't get into the semantics of that. I think everyone's entitled to their own belief system. We're in
Yeah.
not in a one size fits all world, obviously. But when you feel better and your nervous system settles, that is a sign from your body that you're heading in a positive direction in some way.
Mhm.
Absolutely. We are wired that way. We are just like the animals. Animals can sense danger. We sense when
True.
someone's staring at us and we turn and look, and sure enough,
Yeah.
someone's staring at us, right? We
Yeah.
have that sense. It's been dulled quite a bit in modern day life, but we have that. And we need to pay more attention to that because even in today's world, with all of our technology, our
Mhm.
mountain of technology that we're about to fall over, it seems sometimes, that sense still means a lot. And we really need to pay attention to it.
And that reminds me, there was a comedian that was talking about mindfulness, and to tap into that, we have stuff bombarding our head all the time that we didn't used to. They said we had mindfulness because when we stood in line, you had to just stand in line. There was no phone to look at. There wasn't anything to do.
Mhm.
When you were waiting for something, you were waiting for something. Your mind was just, there was nothing else there. So I think that is really important that we do quiet our mind. I want to ask you, I have two friends that are going through a thing that they've gone through before, like a bad experience. Most of it's financial and relationship oriented, a combination of both. And now they're older. They're like, one is 70, one is 50. And they're like, why is this happening to me again? Why am I back in this space again? And what is your thought on that? When people say, I'm sure they're not alone. There's other people that this happens to them and they're in this cycle that things might get better, but then they're back in the same
Mhm.
place. What's causing that?
Because things get imprinted on us usually in early childhood. Early childhood means a lot because if you think about it,
Mhm.
we learn how to be a human very early in life, right? And we start picking up beliefs and it creates sort of a foundational system for our lives. And that
Yeah.
foundational system runs through a lifetime. I've had
Mhm.
clients into their 70s that are still working on things that harken all the way back to age 3, 4, 5, even before that.
Wow.
So that carries through a lifetime and it creates this sort of lifetime imprint that can seem impossible to outrun, especially up against the
Mhm.
big three: health, relationships, and money, and the
Yeah.
spinoffs of all of those things. What I see is that until we go back and heal that early stuff, and really by heal it, I mean face it, appreciate
Yeah.
it, do what I call detuning it by slowly over time taking its power away. I grew up in a very abusive home. My mother was physically abusive when I was really young and mentally abusive into my teens until actually my whole life, because the last 20 years of her life, she never spoke to me. So
Wow.
I had to learn to detune her.
Yeah.
Having a mother that says, I never wanted you, I wish you were dead, I wish you would kill yourself, and things like that growing up, that imprints on you and it
Mhm.
absolutely impacts how you feel about yourself. But I wasn't able to begin that detuning process until I came to terms with this isn't originating with her. And it's not even
Mhm.
about me. This is about her upbringing and how she's choosing to respond to her life. And I
Yes.
realized that again in my teens. So I started that process then. And then our disconnection in the last 20 years of her life was really about me just not being willing to play her game. She didn't trigger me.
Mm.
She didn't bother me. She couldn't stand that. So she wanted nothing to do with me. And I was completely okay with that as well. So,
Wow.
excuse me. So we do this throughout our lifetime. We automatically, as time, you've heard the term time heals all wounds. As time
Yeah.
goes by, we reframe how we view things very often in a lighter way. And we have
Mhm.
more appreciation for it as we go. I'm turbocharging that and saying omni appreciation is the thing for everybody because if you learn to appreciate something, you take its power away. Whether it's a politician or a life event or a circumstance, if you can appreciate being in pain, alone, excuse me, or being broke, if you can,
Mhm.
and I'm people think, how the hell am I going to appreciate that? I have been broke, I've been alone, and I've been in pain. I've been in such debilitating pain that I was walking with a cane. I was having to hold furniture just to get out of bed in the morning, excruciating pain. And this went on, it escalated over 20 years. Years in, I started appreciating the pain. The pain did not magically go away. What happened was is that the path to a $350,000 surgery opened up. The best surgeon, the best aftercare, the best recovery completely pain-free now, and it was a 6-month journey, but I wouldn't
Mhm.
change any of it because it was such a magical experience to go
Yeah.
through and then come out the other side pain-free. And I've done the same thing with money, I've done the same thing with relationships. I have solved all those problems, and I've witnessed other people doing them, but you never do it when you're demonizing. When you're saying, and this is true for any moment, you talked about standing in line. If you're standing
Mhm.
in line and you're annoyed because you think you shouldn't be standing in line, right?
Mhm.
Anytime you find yourself annoyed, realize that the root of that emotion is that you're labeling it as something that shouldn't exist. This should not be. Not be is the biggest roadblock to anything that we want to fix, because as long as we're saying it should not be, we're giving it power and it sticks
Yeah.
around.
I've learned, I have the new saying that I say, everything always works out for me and everything's working for me. I had a car accident about a week and a half ago, and it's for me. It's meant for me to not have my car, and I have to zigzag to something else and put my energy somewhere else. And it told me, you just need to slow down. Something's telling you, slow down. What can I learn from this? What is it trying to tell me? And if you take that breath and do that, I think it's really powerful. You have
Mhm.
taught us so many things here today, David. Tell people where they can reach out and connect with you.
The best place to find us is davidstrickel.com, davidstrickel.com. Everything's
Terrific.
there.
All right. Check him out and check out his book, and his new book will be coming out before you know it. I'm Melanie Johnson. Have a great week, everybody. And if you're looking to become a #1 best-selling author and get your book written for your business, reach out to us and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great day, everyone. Hey, are you looking to increase your revenue, build credibility, and elevate your brand? This podcast is brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, an innovative publishing and full spectrum marketing company. They will publish and market your book to make it a #1 bestseller. Becoming an author is the best way to market your business. So contact them at eliteonlinepublishing.com today. All of their authors become #1 bestsellers.